I am a soldier.
I'm 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 a soldier.
I am a brother.
I'm a son.
I'm a friend.
I'm a friend.
I'm a grandson.
I'm a wife.
I'm a wife. He's home.
I'm home.
I'm home.
I am home.
I'm home.
I'm home.
Challenge America is all about connecting the dots. It's not about controlling. What we want is everybody coming with their ideas. My hope is that Challenge America will help us connect the dots between each other. If somebody has a passion for a certain sport or some kind of help agency, that can be connected with people that can finance it, with the people who need it, with the children that need education.
I think this is an important program because it gives some military people that possibly never had a chance for higher education to participate in higher education and a better life.
Bringing together all these organizations to help us transition from battlefield to home front is important because there's so many soldiers that fell through the loop in the beginning of the wartime that didn't get all those services, or they might find one service and they don't have access to the other. Whereas this program is designed to bring all those services together so that you can go to one website and it's like a one-stop shop to get all the information that you need.
We all get a chance. Everybody gets to dance. Yeah, only in America. Only in America.
He wanted to join the military when he was really little. His grandfather was in World War II, father was in Vietnam. He grew up loving the military. When he was in school, his mom said, you can join the military only if you go and get an associate's degree. So he went to college for 2 years and then joined the military in 1999. We got married about a year after we met, and about 6 months after that, we had our first child, Mason, and he deployed about 6 months after he was born. So it was pretty close, about a year and a half, and maybe not even that long before he got deployed to Iraq. When his unit went over in March, he was actually in Ranger School. They had sent him there, and he was there for about 3 or 4 months. And then he came back. His guys were already in Iraq. He said, all right, I'm ready to go. And they said, well, they're going to be coming back, so there's no reason for you to fly to Iraq. So they sent him to airborne school. And by the time he ended up going to Iraq, it was end of July, and they had been there since March. I got a phone call Friday at 5 in the morning, normal phone call. He told me that he was dropping off his troops and switching out for some new ones, and there's a troop strap in the back of the Humvee, and he went to go unclick it, and when he did, there was a Humvee right behind him, and the RPG was shot from behind, came through the Humvee that was behind him through the window and hit the tail light right where he was at, and pretty much blew him back to the back of the Humvee. There was one casualty, and pretty much shrapnel killed him instantly, took one arm of another warrior that was with him, and nerve damage to somebody else's arm. He said, I got some good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first? And I said, I guess the bad news. And he said, the bad news is I got my legs blown off, but the good news is I'm coming home. And he had a good attitude. He wasn't crying, he wasn't upset. I was kind of apprehensive on what my reaction was going to be when I saw him. But, when I did see him, he had lost a lot of weight, really, really little. definitely was not what I expected. I painted a prettier picture in my mind, but I mean, he was there, and when he saw me, he smiled, and so that's all I was looking for. I think a lot of times it made him feel like less of a man because he wasn't able to walk. You know, his son's like, come play soccer with me. Well, obviously he's in a wheelchair. You can't really do that. So he had some times where he just was really looking down. To be honest with you, I think the first time that it all turned around is when he went to an Amputee Coalition of America conference in Atlanta, and he was okay with the fact that he was not going to walk again. He'd never seen anybody walk like him with the same amputations above the knee. So when he went to this conference, he saw a triple amp, which is he had missing his arm above the elbow and both legs above the knee like Heath, walking around like everybody else. And he said, if he can do it, I can do it. So we found his prosthetist, and Heath went and got fitted for new sockets and learned how to walk. And from then on, he's just been unstoppable.
At first, when I lost my legs, I thought things were going to be easy until I put on prosthetics. It really gave me a real wake-up call as to what my life is going to be like as a disabled person. I struggled with prosthetics for about 2.5 years trying to learn to walk, all while spending the majority of my day in a wheelchair. Participated in some sports, but I never learned to walk until 2.5 years later when I did meet Hanger Prosthetics and Orthotics at the Amputee Coalition of America's National Conference, and I've been walking now out of a wheelchair for the past 3 years. When I first was injured, the thoughts of being able to walk and run and swim with prosthetics and even get on a bicycle and ride was something that I didn't think was possible. I thought I might get to the point where I could walk and maybe run a little bit, but just to be able to take prosthetics to the level that I've taken, it's just phenomenal.
Everything, honestly, he has set his mind out to do, he has done. One thing is he loves driving 5 speeds, and we got rid of one of our cars because it was a 5-speed, and once he started to learn how to walk, his prosthetist put him in a 5-speed and learned how to drive a 5-speed. He's rode 4,200 miles across country with his arms and a hand cycle, and just finished the Paralympics in the 22nd of March and got 2 top 10s in the world. For my kids, I mean, it's huge. I mean, they're able-bodied, and if their dad can do it, who's missing legs and has the determination, they should be able to do anything. It's just a good example for him to set for the kids and for everybody, really.
We pour out our miseries, God just hears a melody. Beautiful the mess we are, the honest cries of breaking hearts are better than a hallelujah.
What Challenge Aspen did was a year-round program for people with disabilities. We were, all of us sitting around who were involved with Challenge Aspen, and we were saying, what do they want? It's not just about some place to have fun. That's where Challenge America was born, was in our living room. And just saying, we've learned so much through Challenge Aspen, why can't we create a viral community where all of these help organizations, every little piece of the puzzle can be found by a disabled veteran. What we need is just a place that eventually will become the go-to site of information for disabled veterans.
I joined the military to have some adventure, go to college, and ended up finding out I love serving my country. I joined in '84, I got out in '88, I went to college. In the course of that, I went to ROTC at college, became an officer. In 1997, I re-enlisted. We were in wicked fighting over there in '04, gunfights every day, taking incoming mortar rounds multiple times every day. IEDs, or roadside bombs, every day. VBIEDs, commonly, more than once a week, have vehicle-driven bombs come in with suicide bombers to hit us. My battalion over there, battalion's about 600-man element, took 75% casualties. We had discovered in the course of fighting in Ramadi, over and over again, the gunfights were ending up at their mosques. When a gunfight ends up at the church, their mosque, we have to go in and assess battle damage. And we were discovering that mosque after mosque after mosque was wallpapered with anti-coalition forces information, and they were planning, supplying, and conducting pretty much all their combat operations out of their churches. For that reason, we went down in Ramadi, a very large, beautiful mosque called Saddam's Mosque. We did a battalion operation to take down that mosque, and it became a very bad gunfight with multiple vehicle-driven, car bombs coming in on us, and snipers, that being me. We fire 3 rounds from a position, and then we move to a new position, or we get located by the enemy, and our job is dropping them before they get close enough to shoot our guys. The 30-man element we were attached to had taken 6 casualties by that point in the first hour of that gunfight. I moved dead center of that gunfight, the focal point of all the incoming RPG rounds, machine gun, rifle fire, so that I could see all the directions we were taking fire from. And I knew that was the worst place I could be in that gunfight, and so I told the young 21-year-old attached to me, I said, stay inside the building. I'm not gonna move again. I'm staying here till I'm dead or this gunfight's over. Luckily for me, he kept coming out to check on me, so he actually saw the round hit me. It didn't knock me out, so I didn't think I was hurt that bad, and head wounds bleed a lot. So the bullet just missed the bridge of my nose, passing from my front right to my rear left, and it exited over my left ear, and it knocked my helmet off and slapped my head back into the wall, but it didn't knock me out. And I kept trying to wipe the blood out of my eye, not realizing that the eye was gone. I wasn't catching on to the fact that a lot of my skull was gone, my head was opened up, it just felt wet. So I was shifting over to fire right-handed, which I'm trained to do. I'm left-handed, primarily a left-handed shooter. And in the time it took me to shift to fire right-handed with my sniper rifle, that was how long it took my partner to low crawl through the gunfire to me and get a hold of my left foot and jerk me out of my position. I'll buy that kid a beer the rest of his life and make sure he gets home okay, because he was so calm. He was, Sergeant, you're hurt.
I drove all night from Florida to get to Walter Reed when I heard that he was injured. My role as the mother of his children was to have his children by his side. There's no other place I need to be than here right now.
Tori, of all the women in this world that should run screaming from me in the other direction, you ought to be first in line. She goes, Dan, I know all your good and all your bad.
And I still love you anyway. Recovery will always be a part of the process. It is every single day. Every day is different from the one before. What we do know is that the worst is behind us. The scary part is over.
Future for the Shannons is we ain't going nowhere. I have got my family back. I am lucky to be alive.
And for us, it's a celebration every day.
From the Sound up in Long Island, out to San Francisco Bay, and everything that's in between them is our home. Now we may have done just a little bit of fighting amongst ourselves, but all y'all outside people just best leave us alone. 'Cause we'll all stick together, and you can take that to the bank. That's the cowboys and the hippies, and the rebels and the Yanks. Just go and put your hand on the Lipscomb Bison fan, and I think you're gonna finally understand.
A hero is somebody, it doesn't take, have to leap tall buildings in a single bound. I mean, that's not what heroes are all about to me, or somebody that, just does something that we ordinarily think of as running a burning building and pulling somebody out. Of course, they're heroes, but that's not the only heroes. We have anybody who is willing to lay their life on the line so my children and grandchildren can go to bed at night without worrying about somebody coming down the street with an AK-47 to blow them away. They're heroes in my book. So the people, men and women in uniform, are heroes, whether they want to admit it or not. You won't get them to say they are. You could go find somebody who's been in the hardest of the battles You could find somebody that's been shot at and hit and gone through a lot, and they would never say that they felt like they were a hero. But in my book, in Charlie Daniels' book, they're all heroes. Being understood and appreciated and respected for laying their lives on the line for us. That's all they asked for.
He was going to college, and then he decided that he wanted an adventure, and he went to the Army recruiter and said, if you can get me to Alaska, I will go. I will join the Army.
Eric went to Alaska because, he wanted to do his duty, but he also was a huge outdoorsman, loved to hunt and fish. Well, it was October 2nd, 2005, and what we've been told, Eric was in northern Iraq along the Syrian border. Their company was placed up there to keep the insurgents from passing over the border. Eric was driving the company command vehicle, which is a Stryker vehicle. The 414th Cav unit was assigned to the 172nd Stryker Brigade while they were in Iraq. Eric was the company commander's driver. They were driving through a wadi, a dry riverbed. As Eric drove over the IED, an insurgent was hiding in the cornfield and detonated it with a cell phone. And it went off underneath the Stryker vehicle, directly behind Eric's seat.
He had a traumatic brain injury from the explosion and blast, and then he fractured his T4 and T5 and broke his leg.
I believe it was a Saturday night. We received a call from Stephanie about 3 o'clock in the morning that she had received the call, and that call told her that Eric had been involved in an IED explosion and that he was alive and had all his limbs, and that's all she was told.
They had always said, before they left, if they could talk, they would call you, no matter how serious it was. But if they couldn't talk, a commander would call you. So you know it's serious when he doesn't call. After he was in the hospital a couple days, he coded, had a heart attack.
Well, he was transferred to Germany, and we received the call to get our passports ready to go to Germany and be by his bed. The doctor wanted us by his bedside when he arrived in Germany. So we were preparing to do all of that, and got a call a few hours later, don't worry about it, they're going to piggyback him on a plane and take him to, with some other soldiers, and drop him off at Walter Reed. So we just got in the car and drove to Walter Reed, and he arrived there, I believe it was like 9:30 at night, and we arrived there at the same time.
It was his mom and dad who actually did more of the explaining and helped, prepare me for what I was going to see when I went into the ICU, because they had got there first living in North Carolina. They were able to greet Eric when he got to the hospital, so he wasn't alone.
You really couldn't recognize him. His body was swollen to about twice its size because of his heart attack. They were pumping fluids in him, and his heart wasn't pumping properly, and it was real tough. With what Eric had gone through, the explosion, the heart attack, and the traumatic brain injury, the anoxic brain injury, the Eric that we knew probably stayed in Iraq. This is the same Eric with a different story. And they got us all into a room, and it was going to break some tough news to us.
The doctors at Walter Reed had said that he would be in a vegetative state, and they didn't expect him to get better.
His brain scans were just basically flatlined, and we saw something in his eyes. It was horrifying for them to tell us that, but we saw something. We saw the reaction that he gave us. We saw that, and when you talked to him, you saw some life there.
When I showed up, one of his responses, when I asked if I could give him a kiss, was he kind of opened his eyes and sat up in bed and set every machine off, so I got kicked out of the room.
I remember being at the foot of his bed with the doctor, and Eric's laying there, and talking to him and trying to get him to move a toe or something. And I don't remember the exact day it was, but I remember being down there, and all of a sudden you saw his big toe. It was just trembling, but it was trembling on command. You do it again, Eric, and it would just shudder, his toe. And right there.
The most progress I think was when he came home from the VA hospital, when we just brought him home and he was in that home environment with me and our daughter and his parents and just able to have a normal life.
He's come a long ways. He works very hard. Eric, nothing more important to Eric than getting his life back. Eric learned a valuable lesson when he was in rehabilitation. He rolled in there in his wheelchair in January of 2007, extremely challenged. Couldn't walk, talk, eat, totally contracted up in his chair, very dependent on everybody for everything. And 7 months later, in July of 2007, Eric walked out of the Rehabilitation Institute with assistance, but he walked out in the arms of his wife and daughter. He learned that if he puts himself forward, works very hard, he can do anything he wants to do.
Eric is a very busy man and hard to keep up with. When he's home, he likes to kind of get out and do things. He doesn't like to stay home all day. There
are 3 things that are very important to him in his life. One is his wife, his daughter, and his love of the outdoors. And we promised him he wasn't going to lose any of it. He's got a loving wife that sticks by his side. He's got a beautiful 5-year-old daughter that just adores him. They have a new baby on the way due in October. That kid hasn't quit smiling in 2 weeks since he's heard. And his return to his love of the outdoors, hunting and fishing.
But if our mistakes brought us together, does it really matter whether we were saints or sinners in the past? I don't care if I'm your first love, but I'd love to be your last.
When any of us does something for our servicemen and women, especially for our disabled servicemen and women, we're giving back to people that have already given to us. We're supporting our country.
No matter what